Endless Waterfall by J. Pilgrim. Wide open paddocks. A secret waterfall, and a man who sees more than scars. Endless Waterfall is a raw and sweeping New Zealand rural drama about love, loss, and loyalty. With the pulse of a thriller and the soul of a romance. View it like a movie. Feel it like real life. Chapter 11. The Endless Waterfall. The hospital room was quiet but heavy. Outside the windows, summer had started to slip into something softer. Cooler mornings, golden evenings, a hint of change in the air. The sun streamed through the blinds in pale strips, lighting the room in warm slats that didn't quite reach the cold tile floor. Lana sat upright in her bed, a half-peeled banana in her hand. Her hospital gown was loose at the collar, exposing the edge of the bandages across her shoulder. The burns had started to scab and stretch, the raw skin puckering at the edges. Her hair was tied up, but a few strands fell loose, clinging to her cheek. Her face was pale, lips dry, but her eyes were set with something sharper than pain, something tired, something about to break. Joe sat in the visitor chair, slouched, eyes fixed on her. He was in clean clothes, a white shirt and black jeans. But he looked worn down. His jaw was scruffy, his hands nicked and raw from a week of early farm work and nights spent between worry and guilt. He hadn't missed a day. "I looked," she said quietly. Joe sat upright. "Yeah?" "I don't like what I saw." He was silent for a moment, then said, "It will take time to heal. And with the skill of the doctor, you will soon be back to the farm." She looked at him, unimpressed. "I'm probably not in a place to give you wellness advice," he added. "But I can see you back on your feet again, and you'll be back doing the things you used to do." She swallowed. "I don't know if I can be that person." Joe leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I already see her." Tears welled in her eyes again. But this time, she didn't turn away. They sat like that for a long while. Lana turned to him suddenly, her voice flat but clear. "You don't have to stay." Joe frowned. "What?" "I'm saying you can go," she said firmly. "I release you. From whatever you think this is." Joe leaned forward, confused. "Lana, what are you talking about?" "You can go back to your life, whatever it was before me." Her voice cracked, and she paused to swallow it down. "You can shack up with that hussy in town who keeps flashing her tits at you every time we're in the cafe." "Gwen?" Joe blinked, startled. "She wants you. Always has," Lana muttered. "Now you're free. She's not burned. She's not broken. You can go." He was silent for a beat. Then he exhaled, slow and steady. "Is that what you really think?" he asked. "I know what I saw in the mirror," she said. Her fingers dug into her blanket. "It's not me anymore. Not the girl you met. Not someone you'd want." Joe stood, walked to the side of her bed, and sat so they were eye level. His voice, when it came, was quiet, soft, steady. "You remember the waterfall?" She looked at him, unsure. "That first day we went. You brought me there. You said it was your secret place. You said it helped you disappear from the concerns of the world." Lana blinked, confused. "What does that have to do?" "It's been flowing for thousands of years," Joe said. "Before you were born, before I was born. Through storms and droughts, through floods and fire, that water keeps falling, no matter what. No matter who sees it or doesn't." She stared at him. "My love for you," he said, voice tightening, "is like that waterfall. It doesn't stop because things get hard. It doesn't disappear because you got hurt. It started and it's still going. It always will." Her mouth trembled. "Joe, I'm not leaving," he said. "Not to Gwen, not to anyone. You're the reason I stayed. You're the reason I am who I am now. You saved me just by letting me in. And I'm going to be here while you find your way back to yourself. And us." Lana covered her face with her hands. The tears came fast and messy and deep. Joe stood and leaned over, wrapping his arms gently around her, careful of her dressings. She sobbed into his chest, shaking, her fingers gripping the back of his shirt like she might fall without it. "I feel so ugly," she whispered. "You're not," he said, voice breaking too. "You're the strongest, most beautiful person I've ever met." Meanwhile, outside, Angie sat in the waiting area with a coffee that had gone cold. She watched the hallway, anxious, twisting her wedding ring round and round. Her eyes were tired, but not from lack of sleep, from too much love, too much helplessness. Robert sat beside her, back against the wall, staring at the floor. "You think she'll forgive him?" Angie asked quietly. Robert nodded. "She will, over time." "Doesn't mean it'll be easy." Angie looked at him. "He's trying, Rob." Rob nodded. "I know. That's the hardest part." Back in the room, Lana lay back against her pillows, eyes red but softer now. Joe sat at the edge of the bed, holding her hand, thumb brushing over her knuckles. She looked at him. "You really mean it? Even with all of this?" Joe nodded. "Remember, my love is like the endless waterfall." Outside, the mounting sun stretched long over the car park. And somewhere, far away on the farm, the waterfall still flowed, uninterrupted, unchanged, unbroken, just like the love that refused to leave. What remains? The sun was low when the family car turned into the farm entrance. Autumn had well and truly arrived. Still warm, still golden, but with a slight chill in the wind now. Lana sat in the back seat, her good arm resting on the door frame, her gaze fixed ahead as the familiar landscape unfolded. Her parents had made the trip to pick her up from the hospital that afternoon, packing pillows for her back and snacks she didn't touch. The drive had been mostly quiet. She hadn't spoken much. She wore a soft brown hoodie and black leggings, chosen more for comfort than appearance. Her hair, which she'd kept tied up for weeks, was loose now, brushed and tucked behind her ears. Her face had thinned slightly in the hospital, and her eyes carried the weight of too many unsettled nights. She saw it. What was left of the cottage? Just blackened beams and a collapsed frame now, warped metal and broken bricks strewn around a scorched footprint in the earth. Charcoal bones of a life that had once existed. Lana stared, her breath caught. Angie, in the front passenger seat, turned her head toward her daughter. "Are you all right, dear?" Robert chimed in, "Avert your eyes while we pass by to the main house." "No," Lana said. "Stop, I need to see it." Robert pulled the car to a stop a few meters from the ruins. Joe was already there, half hidden by charred timber, steeped in a pile. He sat on a pile of bricks in his work gear, denim shorts, a white t-shirt, and scuffed boots. His hands were dirty from the day's work. Buzz sat beside him, tongue lolling, tail sweeping the grass slowly. Joe's face was unreadable, but his eyes were all Lana needed to see. Uncertain, hopeful, waiting. She exited the rear of the vehicle in a deliberate manner. Her father helped her gently, his thick hands careful not to touch her shoulder. Angie got out and hovered nearby, arms crossed tightly under her chest, protective and quiet. Lana walked toward the ruins alone. The closer she got, the more details emerged. Burnt fragments of the old porch, the twisted metal of the bed frame, glass melted into the dirt. Grass had started to grow around the edges, trying to reclaim what was left. Joe joined her after a moment, standing beside her in silence. "I like this place," Lana whispered. It was old and drafty and had mice in the walls, but it was homely. Joe's voice was quiet. It was the beginning of something. She nodded slowly. "It was a long time ago." Joe winced and turned toward her. "You ready to be back?" She met his gaze. "No, but I want to be." Behind them, Angie and Robert stood by the car. Angie wiped at her eye quickly and crossed her arms again, watching her daughter with a fierce tenderness. Robert stood straighter, jaw tight, his eyes locked on the cottage remains. He hadn't spoken about the fire much, not out loud, but he visited the site occasionally, cleared debris, pushed fallen timber into neat piles. It wasn't just his daughter's life that had changed. He'd welcomed someone into his family, let them live under their sky, and nearly lost what was most valuable because of it. He had to deal with those emotions. Later that evening, inside the farmhouse, Angie had lit candles around the kitchen table. The scent of roasted lamb and rosemary filled the house. Lana sat with a cushion behind her back, carefully balanced in one of the softer chairs. Her appetite was small, but she ate. That alone was a victory. Joe sat beside her, not too close, but close enough. Robert brought out a bottle of wine and poured Lana a small glass. He looked at her, tender. "You're home now," she smiled faintly. "Yeah." That night, after dinner, Lana accompanied Joe to the small caravan behind the main shed. It had been scrubbed clean and repainted by Joe during her hospital stay. Joe had made up the bed with new linen. A jar of wildflowers sat by the window. Lana paused at the door. "You want company?" Joe looked at her for a moment, then nodded. She stepped inside after him, and she rested her hand on his chest, just over his heart. "This is going to take time," she said. "I've got it," he said simply. And outside, under the wide, star-dusted sky, the paddock swayed in the dark. Somewhere nearby, the waterfall still flowed, constant, enduring, just like them. The wall she built. A week passed on the farm. The shortening autumn days bled into one another, each one slow and filled with the quiet rhythms of recovery. The cows still needed milking, fences still broke, and weeds still crept in along the troughs, but something in the heart of the farm had shifted. Lana was home, but not always present. On the occasional morning, she peeked through the curtains to watch Joe walk down the farm track toward the cowshed. She kept the curtains of her bedroom mostly drawn, only parting them enough to see the outline of his back as he moved along the track. He looked strong, steady, like he belonged. And she felt like a stranger in her own skin. Her shoulder was still bandaged, though the pain had diminished. The physio had started gently, arm lifts, stretches, but the burn scars were tight and unforgiving. At night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the familiar noises of the farm outside replaced by the sound of her own breath. Too loud, too sharp. And every time she caught Joe looking at her, whether across the dinner table, or walking back from the sheds, or sitting just outside the caravan door, something twisted inside her. Pity, she thought. He's staying out of pity. That morning, after another awkward, half-shared breakfast with Angie in the main house and a polite nod from Robert, Lana found Joe outside by the water tank fixing a cracked valve. His sleeves were rolled up, strong arms tanned and dirt-smudged, his hair tied back in a low knot, and his face clean-shaven. He looked tired but grounded, and too good for her. She crossed the gravel, quiet but deliberate. "Joe." He looked up. The sun lit his face. He smiled, just slightly. "Hey, don't." He straightened. "Don't what?" "Don't smile like that," she said flatly. "Don't look at me like nothing's changed." Joe wiped his hands on a rag, confused. You can leave, you know." He blinked. "What? You don't have to stay. You don't owe me anything." Joe stepped closer. "Lana, we've been through this." "I'm not going anywhere." She shook her head, voice sharper now. You should go. You've done your part. You saved me. You did the right thing. Now go back to town. Go back to your life. Go be with Gwen, who's been panting after you since the day you walked into the cafe." Joe's brow furrowed. "Gwen?" Lana folded her arms over her chest, hugging herself. "Yes, Gwen. She's perfect. Blonde, bubbly, flirtatious. She didn't almost die in a fire. She doesn't have scars across her back. She doesn't look in the mirror and want to be anyone else." Joe stared at her for a long moment. "You think I stayed because I felt sorry for you?" She looked away, jaw clenched. "You should have left when I told you to the first time." Joe tossed the rag onto the ground and took a step forward. "You want the truth?" Lana didn't answer. "I don't give a damn about scars," he said. "Not yours, not mine. We've both been burned, Lana. Your scars are just visible. Mine? They're still bleeding on the inside." Her lip trembled. "I'm not interested in Gwen, or anyone else. I love you. I loved you before the fire. I love you through it. I love you even when you're pushing me away because you think I'll see you differently." She swallowed. "But I do." "Then we'll work through it," he said. "Together." Lana closed her eyes, her voice small. "I feel broken." Joe stepped forward, his voice softening. "Then we build something new. With what's left." She opened her eyes, meeting his. "I'm not leaving," he said again. "Not unless you tell me you don't love me anymore." She hesitated. "I never said that." "Then I'm staying." Lana looked at him, tears threatening. "I don't know how to let you love me like this." Joe reached out and gently touched her cheek, thumb brushing the edge of her jaw. "Then start small," he said. "Start by letting me stay." And in that moment, standing in the sun, surrounded by paddocks in pain and all the words they'd yet to say, she nodded, small but real. A beginning. Again. Joe stood still for a moment, searching Lana's eyes, waiting for her to look away again. But she didn't. She was fragile, yes, still stitched together with pain and doubt. But in her gaze now was something else, too. A flicker of trust, of want, of hope. Barely there, but enough. Without asking, he stepped forward, his arms slowly circling beneath her knees and behind her back. "Joe," she started, breath catching. "I've got you," he said, voice low, steady. "Trust me right now." She didn't resist. Her body settled against his. Her head came to rest on his shoulder, and he felt her exhale. A long, trembling breath she hadn't even known she was holding. His arms were strong and sure, but it wasn't just the physical weight he was lifting. It was everything. The fear, the shame, the isolation. Each step he took across the sunlit paddock felt like part of something sacred. The grass brushed his legs. Birds shifted in the trees. He carried her down the worn track to the glade, to the place where time always seemed to slow, where the world felt quieter, cleaner, truer, where the scars they both carried didn't speak as loudly. And then, as the curtain of willows opened before them, the sound met them. The soft, eternal hush of water falling against rock. Lana's grip tightened around his neck. "My secret place," she murmured, voice cracking. "Our secret place," Joe affirmed. "I remember everything that started here." Joe set her down gently near the edge of the rock pool where the moss was soft beneath him. It wasn't just to rest. It was to begin again. Joe didn't press her. He gave her space. The waterfall's voice nurtured her. Steady, eternal, the sound of falling water smoothing over stone and silence. The glade was dappled in sunlight filtered through green, the air damp and cool with memory. Joe turned to Lana and gently brushed a lock of hair from her face. "Do you remember what I said?" She looked at him, expression unreadable. This," he motioned toward the falls, "is how I love you. Constant, no matter the season, no matter what's broken." Lana didn't speak, but something in her posture shifted. "I know it's hard," Joe added. "I know you don't feel like yourself yet, but you're still the woman I fell for. And I don't need perfect. I just need you." She leaned closer, slowly, and reached out to touch his chest, right over his heart. She rested her head against his shoulder. They sat there together, letting the silence say what words couldn't. The only sound was the endless falling water before them, timeless, uninterrupted. Lana reached for his hand. Joe looked into her eyes, searching, still waiting for her to say it. She didn't speak. She leaned in and kissed him. It was slow at first, tender, uncertain, but real. Her hand gripped the side of his shirt, pulling him closer. And he came willingly, carefully, not rushing, not pressing, just being there. With her, for her. Every kiss was an act of remembering. Every touch a reminder that love didn't need to be perfect, only honest. Joe moved gently, his fingers tracing along her jawline, brushing her collarbone, always cautious, always aware of the healing skin and the deeper wounds still raw beneath it. They lay side by side, tangled in each other, clothes half removed, hearts completely exposed. Lana's breath hitched as Joe kissed the edge of her bandage, her throat, the curve of her shoulder. "You're beautiful," he whispered. She shook her head, almost reflexively, and he kissed the words away before she could speak them. The love they made wasn't about heat or urgency. It was slow, careful, filled with pauses. There were tears and laughter, hands trembling, foreheads pressed together. He didn't rush her, didn't take more than she offered. He just gave everything he had. And for the first time since the fire, Lana stopped feeling broken. After, she lay against his chest, her face tucked into the space just above his heart. "I'm still scared," she whispered. "So am I," he said tenderly. "But that doesn't mean we quit." The waterfall flowed on, just as it always had. And in the quiet space between two wounded people, something whole began again. Hi. Stay updated on J. Pilgrim's releases by following him on this channel. Join a community of fiction lovers who are inspired, entertained, and transformed by the works of J. Pilgrim. Like, subscribe, and share this series. See you in the next episode.